These days, companies are always trying to push that bigger is better. For only a bit more money, you could get that upgrade. We even had a whole movie about this with fast food. But while we've seen that people are getting bigger TVs, that may not be the case with monitors. Hey, I'm Nicholas from Ratings.com. Today we're going to review the ASUS ROG Swift PG27UCDM. It's the first 27-inch 4K 240Hz QD-OLED that we've bought and tested. Part of a new group of monitors coming out in 2025, it provides a smaller screen to those who want a 4K QD-OLED but feel that the 32-inch models are too big. Or it's something to consider if you want a higher resolution than the 27-inch 1440p QD-OLEDs out there. But considering how saturated the QD-OLED market is there anything that sets this apart? And is it worth getting? Before we get into the performance, let's quickly look at the design and inputs. For starters, it looks like it should. A gaming monitor. It has the same branding elements as other ROG Swift monitors with lighting on the stand and back. Plus it's well made, which is what you should expect from a high-end monitor. It even comes with an ergonomic stand that makes it easy to adjust. And once you do, it stays in place well. And while we're here, let's take a peek at the inputs too, because this is an area in which the monitor excels. It supports full bandwidth over both HDMI and DisplayPort, which helps if you have a graphics card that can take advantage of it. Besides that, it also includes a USB hub with a USB-C port that supports DisplayPort alt mode and 90 watts of power delivery. This means you could connect a laptop to display an image from it and charge it with one cable. And you can easily switch between sources and use the same devices on both thanks to the KVM switch. Simply put, it offers anything you'd want in a premium monitor in terms of inputs. But what about its picture quality? There's a ton to offer here too. We'll actually start with the text clarity, since this is something that sets it apart from other QD-OLEDs. With a pixel density of 166 ppi, text looks incredibly sharp. It's pretty close to 27-inch 4K LCD monitors when it comes to this, and it's a clear upgrade over 32-inch 4K QD-OLEDs. Even though it still has a bit of fringing around text that QD-OLEDs are known for, it's really not as bad as larger displays, and it's hard to see for most people. Just keep in mind that it still has fringing at the top and bottom edges of windows. And with the glossy screen coating, images are clear. This coating also has incredible reflection handling, one of the best we've seen so far. Even reflections from strong light sources aren't distracting. Plus it gets bright enough in SDR to fight glare in most rooms. You just need to turn the uniform brightness setting off to make sure it gets as bright as possible. This is at the cost of some changes in brightness between different content, known as ABL, but it isn't too aggressive either. Turning it on results in a dimmer, but more consistent brightness across different content. However, you'll want to keep the setting off in HDR so that small highlights really pop. Even though it can't keep this high brightness with larger highlights, which is typical of OLEDs, it's still bright enough with most content. It even has accurate PQ EOTF tracking, but because there's a slow roll off before the peak brightness, it doesn't let all highlights get the brightest they could get. The brightness isn't the only thing that makes this monitor fantastic for HDR. It also displays a wide range of colors in the common DCI-P3 and the wider Rec 2020 color spaces, and colors are accurate in both. Plus it displays dark and bright colors very well, so content looks vivid. Even in SDR, colors are very accurate before calibration in its dedicated sRGB mode. It locks colors well to the sRGB color space, and there are minimal inaccuracies throughout. Using this sRGB mode locks you out of a few settings, so you need to use another mode if you want to adjust them. But when we calibrated our unit in the user mode instead, colors were actually more oversaturated compared to the sRGB mode. So calibrating it doesn't provide much besides the fact that you could fine-tune some settings how you like. And keep in mind that accuracy varies from unit to unit. Of course, the biggest advantage when it comes to the picture quality is the near infinite contrast ratio in dark rooms. This means it displays deep, inky blacks, and it doesn't have any blooming around bright objects either. Just remember that the black levels rise in bright rooms on these QD-OLEDs, making them look purple. Alright, now that we know what it looks like, how about the famous gaming performance? For starters, because of its DisplayPort 2.1 bandwidth at UHBR20 speeds, it can reach the max 240Hz refresh rate without any sort of compression. Of course, you also need a graphics card that supports the same bandwidth to make full use of it. It does need DSC compression to reach the max refresh rate over HDMI though. There's a setting to turn off DSC if you prefer not using it over HDMI, but that limits the refresh rate to 120Hz. Besides that, it supports all common VRR formats to reduce screen tearing. And in terms of motion, fast-moving objects look incredibly sharp at any refresh rate. Its response time remains consistently fast as the refresh rate drops, and there isn't any noticeable inverse ghosting. Any blur you see at low refresh rates is caused by persistence. It does have a BFI feature to reduce this persistence blur. It actually works well and makes motion look better, but you could only use it with fixed 120Hz signals. On the plus side, it also has low input lag for a responsive feel. Sure, the input lag at 60Hz is a bit higher than expected, but it's still good enough for most gamers. And if you aren't a PC gamer and prefer playing on consoles, then you'll be happy to know that it supports any signal up to 4K at 120Hz from a PS5 or Xbox. Plus it supports Dolby Vision that works with an Xbox, which is neat for playing games available in Dolby Vision. While this all sounds fantastic for gaming, it isn't perfect. The biggest downside is that it has noticeable VRR flicker when the frame rate changes a lot, and it's most distracting in dark scenes. This is typical for an OLED, so nothing new here. It does have an anti-flicker setting, but it doesn't actually do anything. Whether you set it on middle or high, the flicker looks pretty much the same. The best way to avoid this VRR flicker is either by setting a frame rate cap or just simply turning off VRR. So with all that said, is it worth getting? Without question, it is. Its sharp motion and incredible picture quality in SDR and HDR make it a fantastic choice for pretty much anything you need it for. Plus it comes with accurate colors, so you won't even need to calibrate it for an accurate image. And sure, it doesn't get as bright as some LED monitors, but it's still one of the brighter OLEDs we've tested. Of course, the biggest downside with OLEDs is the famous risk of burn-in. But unless you're using this monitor only to work on it all day, every day without changing things up, then you shouldn't worry too much about it. But when comparing this to QD-OLEDs that are all very similar, it's the small details that count. And compared to the ASUS PG27UCDM, that's exactly what you need to think about, the smaller screen. If you just want the bigger screen for a more immersive feel, then go for the PG32UCDM. But if you want higher pixel density with sharper text clarity, then the PG27UCDM is the one for you. And its DisplayPort 2.1 input is a nice upgrade over the older PG32UCDM. If you're in the market for a 27-inch QD-OLED, then for sure this one has some advantages over 1440p QD-OLEDs out there, like the MSI MPG271QRX. The higher resolution makes it more versatile, like for console gaming, but the MSI costs less and has a higher 360Hz refresh rate, so deciding which one to get really depends on the combination of resolution and refresh rate that you want. That's all for the ASUS ROG Swift PG27UCDM. Are you planning on getting this monitor? Let us know in the comments. If you want more details, check out our written review. The link is in the description below. Until next time, I'm Nicholas from Ratings.com, where we help you find the best product for your needs. Ciao.
I accidentally recorded the video in 1080p.
Okay, so you want to just do it again? Yeah, no problem. I'll make no mistakes this time. I'm looking for that pizza. No worries.
I just wanted to say it's an April Fool.
Ah, okay. Man, I wanted the pizza.